I am a poet, me, sitting way up high, preaching in rhyme on my poetry, hoping that somebody will walk by and notice me. Because I know the words that I say will find a person to save. With each verse I relay, they will serve to relate, giving comfort to another through the power of poetry. And yes, poetry is powerful. Hi, my name is Duke Al, and I'm a spoken word poet. And today I'd love to share the power of poetry, the power of the pen, and the superpower of words. I began writing raps and poems in my old lyric book from about 11 years old. I was inspired by hip-hop artists from the US, such as Eminem and Tupac and 50 Cent. I really love wordplay, clever lyricism, and storytelling. I'm not a fan of songs with no meaning. Words must have meaning. But when I was 12, 13 years old, I began to experience horrifying, intrusive thoughts that were linked to my ethics, morals, values, things and people that I love. Now, these intrusive thoughts really were distressing and debilitating, and I felt this hydraulic pressure of responsibility to prevent them from happening by performing something called compulsions repetitively. I later found out that I've got something called obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD, and uncertainty plays a vicious role in OCD, so it's like, if you don't do that compulsion, then what if that horrible thing does happen? And it's really difficult and debilitating. And when I was younger, all of my intrusive thoughts were about my mum. My mum was a single mum. I used to see my dad every other weekend, but evidently it was my mum that sort of brought me and my siblings up. And my first intrusive thought was all about, what if my mum dies in a car crash and it's all going to be my fault? So I was 12, 13 years old, always thinking, I have to prevent my mum's death. And it was extremely debilitating. I was really afraid of stigma and afraid what people would think, so I picked up the pen. My brain told my hand told the pen told the page, and I was able to articulate and figure out what was going on in my mind through the power of poetry, rhyme, and rhythm. Now, poetry became a positive coping mechanism, a self-therapy, but my negative coping mechanism kicked in quite early on in my life as well, and that was alcohol. I got to about 21 years old. At this time, I still hadn't had the specific OCD intervention that I needed. But at 21 years old, I was at rock bottom, and I was at my wit's end. OCD likes to adapt and likes to attack you in different ways, and mine did adapt in many different ways. And I had this horrendous intrusive thought, and I decided, I was really drunk, and decided all I wanted to hear was silence. So I did something quite drastic, and I didn't want anything to end. I just wanted to hear silence. And then I got rushed to the hospital, and it was through that really distressing time that I finally got the specific OCD intervention that I needed, which was cognitive behavioral therapy and exposure of response prevention therapy. I've got a bit of a poem to sum that up for you. I've scribbled bad thoughts in my notebook. From a young age, I've been feeling broken. Look, I'm riddled with disorder. Everybody thinks OCD is order. That I label things A to Z color-coded, but I'm overloaded mentally with daily torture. You see, it stops at C because he's a beast. The beauty in my mind's deceased, this anxiety, trauma, being a bad thought, hoarder. And it's back again, so I turn to the drink, it becomes my water. And that's a turn of phrase as I open up the tinny, OCD squirms in rage. But when will I learn temporary fixes? It ain't worth the pain. It opens up a can of worms. I try to wriggle up the riddles, but I'm dazed. I need some support to fight, see. Should I go Martin or Malcolm? Can you tell me, Spike Lee? Maybe Black Panther's the answer. I drink vibranium to fix my cranium. Chadwick, rest in high peace. Mum gave me some of her black magic. Said, listen, son, never lose yourself. Mental health will appear like a hat rabbit, bad habit. I don't need to feel like Harry. I will solve Tom Riddle. I'll attack, stab it with my pen, because you could cut me open, I bleed ink. Mine's been broken, I needed to rethink. I'm married to the pen, the ring binds to the page, because poetry and rhyme saved my life. Pen is sharper than a blade. So yes, the ink, the pen saved my life, but so did the NHS. Without the NHS's help, I'm not sure I'd be here now. So that's the first thing about the pen. I'm going to introduce you to a second pen in a minute. When I was about, again, roughly 21, 22 years old, I was very privileged enough to go traveling with my partner, and we visited Thailand and Bali. And in Bali, we went to a restaurant, and I ordered a surf and turf, and I put a shrimp in my mouth, and it tasted absolutely horrendous, and I spat it out. Basically, I caught salmonella, and it turned septic. I got sepsis, and it was really difficult time in my life. I was very, very ill. But through sepsis and through another trigger of stress, I was in my last year of uni, a few things happened to me at this point in my life. Basically, it stopped my pancreas from working. So I'll introduce you to my next pen. I've got type 1 diabetes. My next pen that saves my life is my insulin pen. Now with OCD and type 1 diabetes, they both sort of collided with each other. With my intrusive thoughts, numbers are a huge part of them, and basically each number has a different intrusive thought. Now when I'm injecting insulin, I inject 1 unit of insulin per 10 grams of carbohydrate that I consume. I'm not sure if you can see that, probably not, it's very small, but there are loads of numbers on the barrel of the pen. And basically, when I first got diagnosed, I just really battled to even give myself insulin, because what if the number was really bad and I didn't want this intrusive thought to happen? So sometimes I would inject too many units of insulin, which can be extremely dangerous. You can go into a hypo very fast and then you have to get glucose. And then sometimes I would inject too little insulin, and again, which is extremely dangerous because you could just stay really, really high. So I battled with that quite a lot. And then also, if I injected a certain number which I didn't like, I felt like I was injecting that intrusive thought into me. This is how complex OCD can be. So then my compulsion was to just stab myself into a number which I liked, which at the time was 20. So I just stabbed my belly about 20 times. So that's how they collided. And then perfection came into it. So perfection with OCD. OCD is a heavily stigmatized and misunderstood mental health condition. So perfection with OCD is maybe not what you think. With me, it was I couldn't start something new and something that was good for me until it was the right day, the right time. And I was giving myself almost an impossible task all the time just to do something that was good for me. So self-punishment became a compulsion. And then perfection with type 1 diabetes, we try and keep our blood glucose between 4 and 7. That's really important. So I've got another poem to sum up that part of my story. It's called Perfect. Trying to be perfect is like running on a glass bridge with metal spikes, walking on a frozen lake with no ice, tiptoeing on a tightrope from a high height. Trying to be perfect is like a relentless fight, shadow boxing against my mind. I've boxed up doubt. I fear if I let it out, I will live in the shadow of me, myself. It's complicated, this fight against my health. Trying to be perfect is on the edge of failure. On the edge of failure is self-destruction. On the edge of self-destruction is imperfection. A cycle of nothing but stress. Nothing but putting pressure on myself to only feel worth less. But is being perfect worth stress? Tormenting thoughts. I'm in a continuous war. With no warning they spawn. I try to ignore them, they take a new form. I sit and I draw up all the conclusions. If the thought actually forms, I'm having withdrawals. Compulsions I mourn, I'm shattered, I yawn, I'm battered, I mourn. Bags live under my eyes, it's as if somebody is gripping, somebody is ripping my stomach, my body is torn. I grip my teeth. I cannot be besides myself, because then that means I'll be the shadow and OCD's won. I need to inject, but the numbers are wrong. How can I go on? Do I inject too little, too many? Neglect, nothing's perfect, I'm gone. Obsession, injection, compulsion, injection, obsession, rejection, compulsion, rejection. I'm checking, I'm testing, is it between the 4 and the 7? Bad number, rejection, bad number, forget, bad number, upset, bad thought, feel dead, no tears are shed, imperfect, I'm numb, imperfect, I'm numb, imperfect. Wait a minute. What did I just say? What if I rearrange the letters of the word in a slightly different shape, then my perspective might change? Put an apostrophe in between the I and the M and then just add a space. What does it say? I'm perfect in my own imperfect way. This gift, do I deserve it? To use rhymes to articulate how my body, my brain, my heart feels. God gave me this gift as my escape. When I write things down, my endorphins are doing cartwheels. It is the powerful way in which I communicate. Maybe God gave me this gift to also help others. Maybe I needed to have suffered. To pick up the pen and empty bad thoughts from my brain so others relate and it soothes their pain because I'm obsessed with words. I'm blessed, not cursed. These conditions are my test on earth. OCD or the checks I merged. To complete, when I'm wrecked I turn to T1D or the checks I merged. To complete, a relentless surge of energy, but through stress I've learned to accept my terms. Not had a rest since birth, but I won't rest till I'm dead in the dirt. Forget these nerves. I'm going to work on myself as I set these goals and write these notes before I'm ghost. I'm going to be the best person I can be. Forget perfection. I'm just going to be the best version of me. Thank you. The NHS saved my life again, from sepsis, from type 1 diabetes. And I'd just like to close this by just paying homage, really, to the NHS with a final poem called Heroes. Not every hero wears an S on their chest. Not every hero wears a cape, wears a super suit to dress to impress. Some wear scrubs, rubber gloves, never rest of the best. Stethoscopes around their necks to check the breath in your chest. They fight to save the lives of the people in need with needles in veins, ventilators to breathe. ICU, they see pain, temperatures they decrease. Understaffed, under pressure, no more beds that are free. Little sleeping ain't fun. Minimum time to eat, but they get the job done. Endless hours, superpowers to ensure the future's ours, but they never seem to get the hump, even when they work their lunch. 'Cause it's crunch time and emergencies cesarean, delivering a son. They've saved the day again, the face of a mum illuminates, call that sunshine. Heroes who don't hesitate to keep on saving lives. Thank you, because you keep on saving mine. The National Hero Service. Thank you very much.